And we are back to the fifth and the final segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this segment, I'm going to give my Rookie of the Year predictions, as well as talk about some huge WNBA news that's been going on. So, for starters, obviously, I can't mention the WNBA without mentioning Caitlin Clark and just how fantastic she's been for the Indiana Fever and just how great she's been overall as a WNBA player and bringing the attention to the WNBA as much as she has. In almost every single most watched game for the WNBA this year, all of them have been with the Fever playing. Like, she is popular and WNBA players just have to deal with it. Now, one of the big reasons why she's popular is because she's just so good at basketball. She's fantastic. One of the cleanest WNBA players that I've seen play the game. And she also became the first rookie in the history of the WNBA to record a triple-double. She ended up getting 19 points, 13 assists, and 12 rebounds in an 83-78 win in an upset over the Liberty on Saturday. Now, they played the Liberty 4 times this year, and they only won that recent one, and that was with Caitlin Clark getting a triple-double. So it just goes to show how much she has to do and what she has to do in order to enable her team to win. And she could honestly gain way more assists if her teammates can just catch the ball. That is one of the biggest problems that I have with the Fever. It's just they are so unbearably incompetent for Caitlin. Like, the skill gap between her and the rest of her team is apparent, except for Aaliyah Boston. She is a phenomenal hooper. She definitely is fantastic. And the coaching as well is also a problem that I have with the Fever, and her performance is nothing short of extraordinary. Now, she is, as a rookie, getting a triple-double is honestly, like, it's really difficult, especially in the NBA. Like, there aren't that many rookies that have had a triple-double in their first year with the NBA. I mean, Jason Tatum wasn't able to get a triple-double as a rookie. Draymond Green was unable to get a triple-double as a rookie, but she was able to do so. So, again, history has been made. She is the first WNBA rookie to ever record a triple-double. And another famous rookie that is also making headlines is Angel Reese. She is breaking records as we speak. She now has the most consecutive double-doubles in WNBA history. 13 consecutive double-doubles as of right now. Obviously, that is subject to change as, games continue to go forward. And Angel just makes it look really, really easy getting these double-doubles. And it makes total sense because this sounds like a little bit of hater logic. I'm not going to lie, this does sound a little bit of hater logic, but a lot of her rebounds are off of her own misses. And that ultimately, helps her with her stats, and it helps her, continue this streak. I'm not saying that she isn't a great rebound because, let's face it, Camila Cardoso, who is another rookie on the Chicago Sky, she is also ridiculously tall compared to everybody else in the WNBA. And she's not even having a ridiculous season or as good of a season as Angel Reese is having. Even in the rebounding category. Cardoso, she only averages 7 rebounds per game compared to Angel, who's averaging 11 rebounds per game as well as 14 points. Now, the big problem with Angel really is her efficiency, in my opinion. And that's also a really big problem with Caitlin Clark as well. Neither of these women are rather efficient shooting from the field, but it's more so apparent with Angel than it is with Caitlin, because with Caitlin Clark, obviously, she is taking a lot more difficult shots than Angel. Angel only recently scored her first 3-point basket. I believe it was against the Storm on Friday. And let me just go ahead and look at the box scores right here. And yeah, Angel Reese, she ended up getting 27 points and shot 2 for 2 from the 3-point line. And we do have a comment coming in from, let me just go ahead and see, from him. Whoa, his name is him. So he has a question. What if the NBA and the WNBA made a merge? WNBA players will be given the chance to be drafted in the WNBA in the expansion draft. Okay, I think those are two different questions. So what if the NBA and WNBA made a merge? Now, that would be horrible for the WNBA, in my opinion. Like, that would be really, really bad because we have another comment from, he made a typo. So NBA players will be given the chance to be drafted in the WNBA in the expansion draft. I think that's what you're trying to say, but I don't think this is a good idea at all because, so obviously, like, there's just no question about it that a majority of WNBA players, they just cannot compete with NBA players. It's well known, and it's, yes, WNBA to NBA. So WNBA players going over to the NBA. Like, the physicality of the NBA, like, while I will admit it's not really as physical as it used to be, but as unfortunate as it is, it's genuinely just how it works. Like, NBA players, and they're going to be stronger than WNBA players. Naturally, they're just going to be stronger. Like, I know people don't like, I know a lot of females, they probably won't like hearing that, but that's just how it works. And you're essentially setting yourself up as a defensive mismatch, regardless of who you're going up against. Not to mention, the height difference is also a very major factor. Like, while Angel Reese is considered a big woman, I guess, because I can't really say a big man because, but she is a power forward, and she also, she plays center, but her height is really going to hinder her when she goes into the NBA because as a power forward, she's only 6'3". And she looks so much taller than the rest of the WNBA players, but she will not be able to play power forward in the NBA at all. She would have to be forced to playing a point guard. And considering how only just on Friday she made her first three-point shot, it's not a really good fit. And not to mention, let me just go ahead and figure out Caitlin Clark and how tall she is. I believe she's not even 6 feet tall, if I remember correctly. Let me just go ahead and make sure that I'm right in that regard. Again, she is tall. Yeah, okay. She's literally exactly 6 feet tall. And we always give Trae Young a lot of sort of problems with his height and being a defensive liability. Imagine Caitlin being on the court and being such a liability on the defensive side of the ball. Not to mention, every NBA guard, the average NBA guard, like point guard now, is going to be either 6'3" or even 6'6" because of how the league is just, the height is just expanding, and so many other players and so many other positions are playing the point guard position. It is just going to be a mismatch regardless of who you go up against. And I'm just talking about the defensive side of the ball. And on the offensive side, I feel like a lot of these players, they're going to get torched by NBA players. In fact, a coach for the women's Olympic team, there was a debate about prime Boogie Cousins going up against prime Brittany Griner, who would win in a one-on-one. And the coach for the WNBA Olympic team said if there was no referee, he is grabbing all of his money, selling his house, and putting all of his money on DeMarcus Cousins. That just shows how huge the skill gap between the NBA and the WNBA actually is. And as unfortunate as it is, like, the WNBA players, they just will not be able to compete with any NBA players. And it would really just make the WNBA lose a lot more credibility because they would get absolutely destroyed. Like, the Pistons would destroy any WNBA team that you can put out on the court. Like, it could be the Liberty, it could be the Mercury, it could be whichever team that you could think of. It could even be the Spark with Cameron Brink. They are going to get destroyed. And I don't want to say anything that's like sort of, I guess, sexist or like discriminating like towards these WNBA players, because let's face it, they would beat me in a one-on-one and they would beat all of us average Joes. But NBA players, they are on a whole other level and they would get destroyed. Like, that's my, so I don't really think they should do a merger in the NBA or for the WNBA. Now, 3-point shooting contests, that's a different story. I love to see 3-point shooting contests between Sabrina and Steph Curry. I loved that matchup. And maybe, friendly 3-on-3 games, that would be something for All-Star break that I would like to see. But again, I just genuinely think that NBA players, they're just going to have a field day with all of these WNBA players. That's just me, however. And while the WNBA players, they're definitely going to disagree on that, that's just a cold, hard fact, as sorry as it is. Now, for Rookie of the Year, that's what I was supposed to be talking about. I mean, with Rookie of the Year, I genuinely feel like it should be Caitlin Clark, just because, as I mentioned before, while they do struggle on efficiency, both of them, Caitlin ends up taking a lot more difficult shots than just layups. The fact that Angel Reese is inefficient on layups really rubs me the wrong way, because it's you're so much taller than every other WNBA player most of the WNBA players that you go up against, and yet you still find a way to be inefficient on layups. I mean, in the game before that I mentioned, Angel Reese, when she was playing against the Dream, they ended up winning, but she shot 5 for 12 from the field, and these are layups. 5 for 12, 12 points on just layups. And then in the previous game, before that, let me just go ahead and pull up on Sunday, on June 30th, when she was playing the Minnesota Lynx. Let me just go ahead and pan over to Angel Reese right here. She ended up only getting 10 points and shot 4 for 16 on layups. These are just layups. And the inefficiency, I don't understand it. Now, with Caitlin, I totally understand the inefficiency there, because she's taking ridiculously deep 3-point shots, because let's face it, that's the only shot that the WNBA players are actually giving her. And she's struggling with the double teams, and granted, the team doesn't really help. I feel like the NBA players, they just have a better understanding of where to stand, where to play, and just how to play the game efficiently and effectively, more so than a lot of these WNBA teams know how to do it. Granted, I'm not saying that the WNBA teams aren't efficient and they aren't playing efficient basketball, but compared to the NBA, it's a huge gap. And I don't like doing it, because it just discredits a lot of the talent that the WNBA actually has. But when you're comparing it to the men, there's just there's just no comparison, in my personal opinion. How do I put this? Imagine Joel Embiid on Angel Reese. Just imagine the amount of points Joel Embiid is going to drop on a 6'3" power forward. Imagine Jokic on Angel Reese. Imagine Steph Curry on Caitlin Clark. That would, it's just not, you can't, it's something that you can't really do. Luka Doncic on Caitlin Clark. Luka Doncic on Sabrina Ionescu. Majority of these NBA players are just going to back down whichever female basketball player is going to be guarding them. And there's nothing that the female basketball player is going to be able to do about it, aside from asking for a double team, which in turn leaves other NBA players wide open to hit easy shots. And again, it's just a liability on the defensive side of the ball. And I'm not even talking about on the offensive side, because they could perform and they could score on the offense now, granted, I genuinely feel like Angel Reese would have a really difficult time scoring on any NBA center. It doesn't matter who it is. She's going to have a difficult time. Scoring on LeBron James, she's going to have a very difficult time scoring on him. Scoring on Victor Wembanyama, Jesus Christ. Imagine Victor Wembanyama playing against any of those short female basketball players. Really, it's the height difference and the physicality that's just really hindering them, and it's something that they can't really control. I'm sorry, that's how it is, but that's just the way it is. And I can't really sort of defend any of those WNBA players, because I genuinely just don't feel that any of them would be able to match up properly against NBA players. To answer your question, so I think it's a horrible idea. I don't think the WNBA should do that. It makes total sense why the WNBA doesn't do that. And if they did do that, it would be rather embarrassing for the WNBA and their players, I think. The amount of ridicule that they would get from the media, from Twitter and all sorts of places, is just going to be ridiculous. And it wouldn't be a good idea now, especially when like the WNBA is gaining all of this traction from watching Caitlyn and watching her hoop. Like, it just wouldn't be good. Like right now, wouldn't be good. Now, one of the players that, if there was any player that I think would be able to get a roster in the NBA, it would be Caitlyn. Like, it would be Caitlin Clark. Despite her defensive liability, her scoring, it might bring some sort of value to like the Detroit Pistons and things of that nature. But again, the another big problem is just, the physicality on the defensive side, because it is going to be rather difficult to blow by an NBA guard more so than it is to blow by a WNBA guard. Like, again, that's just my opinion. Now, obviously, like, I could be flat out wrong if they do end up doing that, but I genuinely don't think that they will. And considering how a coach for the WNBA or like the women's national Olympic team was willing to bet all of his money on DeMarcus Cousins winning against Brittany Griner, it just shows like the amount of skill gap she's like the huge difference between the NBA and the WNBA. TJ in the chat actually says he's a host for the sports podcast, so go ahead and tune into his podcast. It's directly after mine. I think A'ja Wilson could get minutes in the NBA. She's actually a dog. I totally forgot to even mention her. Yes, she could probably gain some minutes in the NBA. Yes, I totally agree with you on that. But again, the big problem is going to be the defensive liability and just like how she's going to be on the court. Like, because in the NBA, you're going to have to you're switching a lot on screens. So a lot of NBA players can just force A'ja to switch and therefore create a mismatch for either the big man or for either the guard, whoever A'ja is going to be guarding. And that's really like the ultimate problem, the defensive side of the game. Like, while it's not really looked upon as, as positively as it used to be, it's still half the game. Like, half the game is played on the other side of the court. Well, I mean, I guess for good teams, a little bit less than half, because they spend a lot more time on the offensive side of the court, right? But half the game is played on the defensive side of the court majority of the time. And if you are also, on top of the fact, I completely forgot that these WNBA players, like Caitlyn's teammates, can't even catch the ball. Like, you really think they're going to be able to compete with those NBA players? I don't really think a majority could. But it's only like a select few. But aside from that, we are out of time for this segment. That is the end of the podcast. Thank you so much for that question. It did spark a lot of debate. Thank you so much for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show, leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. As usual, please remember to use the link in the description to get your comments recognized, or the link displayed below the ticker. That is gsmcpodcast.net. Thank you so much for all of you tuning in. I am your host, Nelson, and as always, take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't